Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Sim Experience 2022 Porsche Supercup, coming to you live from Zandvoort in the Netherlands for a final round of the championship, round 8 of our 8-round championship. I'm your commentator, Dennis Mitchell. I'm joined again tonight by Sean Woodgate. And Sean, good evening.
Circuit that I've actually had the opportunity for commentating live twice. So great. It's going to be fun.
Yes, and you at least have some experience at this circuit, so perhaps you can give us a quick rundown as we transition into the qualifying live.
Right. Certainly a fun racetrack. I think the drivers will really enjoy it because unlike other circuits that are very, very flat, if I talk about flat, not only do they not have hills and undulations, but there's hardly any banking at all. Zandvoort is a track that has, I think, 1, 2, 3 corners that have a certain element of banking to them. The first one is the one at the end of the main straight, which if you miss it, I see they've tarred it up the dunes in the modern version, but that's banked, which is called Tazenbocht. And just a bit of history around Tazenbocht. Apparently, when they built the circuit, they had to get the permission, obviously, of all the farmers that they could actually buy the property from them. And there was one farmer that was adamant they're not going to buy his farm or his piece of land, and he held out until the absolute last, and so they nicknamed him Tarzan. And his piece of land is where turn 1 is, and so history goes that that's how the corner got its name as Tazenbocht. In Dutch, a corner is a bocht, so B-O-C-H-T. So if I refer to the corners, I'll actually try and say Tarzan corner rather than bocht, because we aren't all Dutch that are listening to tonight. But I'm not going to say which ones specifically, but there are a few of the corners at Zandvoort which historically the layout as it is at present isn't the layout that it had over the years gone by. Years gone by, Zandvoort had actually, to put it bluntly, a fairly dangerous track, and people losing their life was nothing unusual. So some of the corners are actually named after drivers that lost their life at that specific corner. So yes, a bit of nostalgia involved as well, very personal, but lots of fun. It certainly is. And I've corrected myself. I went and looked up turn 4, which is actually more a slight change of direction rather than a corner, called Hunzerig. Now, if you're Hunzerig, you're actually hungry. So whether that means you're hungry for action, I don't know, because you then have turn 5, which, well, 4 and 5 make up Hunzerig. Then you into Slotenmaker Bocht, which just sounds right, sorry, the way that it's written, and then into the Scheefvlak, and that's actually quite a tricky corner because of the way that you actually going over Hunzerig, which is a hill, and then going through 5 and 6, the car's actually a little bit light, having just gone over the hill, and you've got to be on brakes into turn 5 with a car that's fairly light, so the brakes might not be as effective as what you'd expect them to be. There's the Mickey Mouse inside section, which not all the drivers, I think especially in Formula 1, that they don't like. But nonetheless, that's Hans Ernst Bocht, turns 11 and 12. And then turn 13, Kummerbocht, you're then coming already into Arie Luijendijk. And Arie Luijendijk is, I think, where you start getting onto the throttle and through the gearbox, accelerating into the main straight again in front of the main grandstand on your way up to Tarzan corner. So, yeah, we'll get through them, I'm sure, during the course of the evening, but it's an interesting circuit, the layout as it is at the moment, and of course FIA Formula 1 certified. The few changes made since I was there, I think in 2015 and 2016. But when we spoke last, and I said to you at the historic Grand Prix, and you must cut me off if you want to go to something specific, the one class, and you must remember that I commentated at what they call the historic Grand Prix. So they've got a few Formula 1 cars, Formula 2s. There's some cars, they're actually so funny to watch, of years gone by, that the guy actually leans over and holds on outside the cockpit to the side of the car as they go through the corner. Otherwise, he's going to fall out of the car. But the formula, and I can look it up, I can't remember what it was. These cars that race historic are not like the ones that we have in South Africa that are built by somebody after the fact and they've got brand new, almost NASCAR engines in them. These actually have a book that goes with it to say that it's genuine and it's approved by the Historic Racing Association. In Netherlands, it's called HARC, Historische Autorennclub. That's what HARC stands for. So the car actually gets certified as historically correct. And that specific formula, which I couldn't remember last, it's the Lolas and the Chevrons. They're having one race, collectively 32 historically genuine Lolas and Chevrons. And it's really something to see these thundering V8s come past. The whole grandstand vibrates, and it really is the way that the commentary booth is opposite the main grandstand, so it reverberates between the two buildings, and really is a great circuit. If you've ever, I'm not sure nowadays what is and what isn't the most expensive. In the old days, I think Malaysia used to be the cheapest Formula One race to go to. I have friends in the Netherlands say if I could first of all afford a ticket, I could get to the Netherlands, but I think race day must be chaos getting to, because you actually have a single train line going from Amsterdam Centraal to Haarlem, then you've got to switch trains from Haarlem, then there's one train that goes only to Zandvoort. So I can imagine those trains must be chock and block from the day before already, whether people sleep in the dunes, all that accommodation must be booked out. But I think it would be a stunning circuit to visit for Formula One specifically. And of course, excuse me, going with Formula One are the Porsches. So it would be exciting to go and see a race weekend filled with all those formulas and all the supporting races that go with it. Interesting.
While you're giving us all this interesting information, we're seeing cars going off left, right, and center, hitting pretty much every barrier around.
It's a tricky circuit. The other thing that one has to remember, I've been on occasion, the first time I arrived, it bucketed down on the Thursday. And the way the Historic Grand Prix works is that they actually do the qualifying sessions, free practice, and then qualifying later in the afternoon. And I thought there's absolutely no way we're going to do any form of racing, because all the corners that are banked, the water goes and lies in the inside of the corner, obviously, it runs down. And there are pools, I wouldn't lie, I reckon you're still on the track, and if you were to stand in that pool, you'd be almost knee-deep. But being in the dunes, the water dissipates or disappears quite quickly. So it is quite an advantage building it on the dune. But the other thing is the wind howls, because Zandvoort is right up against the coast. So the other factor that you have at times is the actual fine dune sand that, unless the track is cleaned and you've got all these big sticky tires that have, shall I say, picked up all the sand and taken it off the tarmac, they're like little ball bearings, so that could influence as well. If the track is green, as it were, a lot of things with few cars on the circuit, it could be quite tricky. I've seen cars that normally would go through a corner very well. That's Arie Luyendyk that they go through there now. You can see that corner's been banked, and over the start-finish line under the bridge. The circuit is now known as CM.com. It must be the main sponsor now. I think also, having looked on the internet, owned by the Dutch Royal House. Had it not been for their intervention, the circuit, I wouldn't say was in financial trouble, but it certainly did help getting them involved so that they went back into the Formula One scene. Otherwise, I don't think Zandvoort would have been able to afford the changes required going to full F1 spec. But a stunning corner. I've been around it in the guy that maintains and looks after the finances of the circuit. I don't know what his title is. He runs a BMW station wagon, and the co-commentator runs in I think it's something similar to an Opel Ascona. They do endurance racing. So it's really budget stuff. But I've been around in a BMW station wagon when it was bucketing down with rain, and obviously, as there's another car that loses the back end.
Yeah, standard, isn't it?
Might just avoid the barriers if he's lucky, or just without doing any. Now he gives them a good wallop. But nonetheless, at Rebellion. Now, Rebellion, they're very much involved with Le Mans and the endurance racing again. So a lot of history. This is going to be an interesting race. I see the guys are giving it everything and then some in the qualifying session, but of course not very good for.
And that's our provisional pole sitter going off.
Oh my goodness.
And he's only in provisional pole by 0.008.
That's 8/1000th of a second. I think you can't blink your eye that quickly. So it's really very, very little. Just one bad and not even a bad, slightly delayed gear shift or something, and that's 8/1000ths of a second gone, so that could change quite easily.
Yes. Perhaps just a quick rundown of our grid at the moment. We have Jason Underwood in provisional pole position. We have Andrew Hollam in second, 8/100ths of a second behind. Basil van Rijn, 0.182 behind. Then we have Jandre Duppenaar. Then we have Chris Collison. Then we have Jean-Ray Dutoy. Then Timo Smit. Then Sean Johnson in 8th. We have Waldo Swiggers in 9th. We have Dani Stander in 10th. Marius van Beek in 11th. Bjorn Buchner in 12th. Stan Bezednert, as we see him spinning off again, currently in 13th. Harvey Goos in 14th. And in 15th place we have the return of Rian van der Westhuizen. He's driving wounded, but he's making an effort to at least drive tonight. So a lot of respect to Rian for being able to drive tonight after his operations he's had. So great to see him again.
Just to give a bit of feedback as well, the way I have it, and thanks for the info, Dennis. Jason Underwood, that's in the lead, as you say, provisionally by 8/1000ths of a second. He leads the championship. If we got to look, I've got to do quick maths.
Sorry to butt in. Jason's just lost the lead.
Okay, so he's gone off, or somebody else has taken. Is it Andrew? Or?
Andrew's just beaten him by 0.4 of a second. Quite an impressive lap.
A fair margin, yeah. But the championship lead is Jason Underwood by 32 points, and I'm not sure how much they score for a win. But is he still catchable, or
he's not? So
okay.
At the moment he's done 7 rounds and he's 30 odd points ahead. The way the championship works, you have 8 rounds and you drop your worst round. So his worst round at the moment is second place. He's had 2 second places and then he's won the rest of the races. So if he drops a round, if he didn't do a round, he would win no matter what. So he is our champion. But our team championship is still open for grabs.
Yes, I saw that was actually quite close. And 42 to 64, 50 to 60, 32 points is between Jandre and how do you pronounce? Jandre and Jandre. Jandre Duppenaar and Jandre Dutoy, both of them in PZN panel beaters. So I should imagine PZN panel beaters are doing very well.
Yes.
As the team championship goes.
Currently second in the team championship to Team Harder Racing.
Yes.
And in third place we've got Gunston Racing.
Now Chris Collison partners with Jason Underwood for the Team Harder Racing, and then Team Gunston is made up by Andre Hilbrand. I'm just going to scroll down because I'm doing an overlay here, and Bjorn Buchner. So they are trying to get to the second place, but the points gap is going to be tight. First of all, they've got to qualify well. And at this stage, as we say, the top 3 are covered by 0.6 of a second. That's Hollam, Underwood, and Van Rijn. So Andrew Hollam doing very well to be in the lead ahead of Jason Underwood, and then Basil van Rijn in that third position, 0.6 of a second. Yellow flag in sector 3, but I think that's probably disappeared already. That's on the YouTube. I see there's a car stuck in sector 3.
That's Timo Smit.
Yeah. Just travel insurance.
Just a quick catch up on the YouTube, mentioning YouTube to the people that are in there already. We have Gary Johnson saying hello Dennis. That's Sean Johnson's brother, so good evening Gary, good to have you with us again. Lynn Sevenster saying hi Dennis and Sean. We have Ethan Smith saying hi guys, and also saying these cars will be his death. And then we have Rudy van der Westhuizen saying lucky boys and good luck.
Right, actually nice to see somebody that's watching the streaming, and the guys are really battling. I must actually pay a bit of attention and see which of the corners it is that they are battling with, and then go back to the corner names. Although to the people watching, unless you've got it in front of you, you won't really know where they are. It looks like the portion that I call it the Mickey Mouse bits, but with cars like these that have so much power, those Mickey Mouse bits are the ones that are the undoing of you, because the direction change happens at speed and you on and off the brakes, and we all know what happens. I had the fortune of doing the Audi advanced driver training, and what was embedded in my head is when you drive normally there are 4 tires carrying the weight of the car. If you brake hard, then the weight shifts from the back to the front, and most of the weight of the car is then on the front 2 tires. And if you then turn as well, then all the weight, or nearly all the weight of the car, gets transferred to one tire, and that one tire then becomes a pivoting point.
Yes.
And that's why the guys end up losing it.
You see some of the guys coming together into, I believe it was into turn 1. And now we see Stan Bezuidenhout running wide.
Now, Zandvoort is also banked now, and it's a daunting corner. This one they're going through now is, well, yeah, it goes backwards and forwards between. It shows that they actually came together, but they all seem to be going again. But the bits that, as I said last week when we were talking about it, the corner that we can actually see, just want to get back to where my layout of the circuit is, because I get the names up again. Turn 3, which is Hoekenholzbocht, or Hoekenholz corner. That's observable out of the loo when we're commentating out of the main building, because you can see it's only just separated by a sliver of the building between that and the main straight. It's actually, it looks as if it's only a small in-section building, but it's substantial enough. There's a road in the front, a road in the back, a pit lane, etc., etc. But it's actually quite a nice view to see the cars going through that corner and the banking. And if you've really got the two different racing lines, we were talking about them earlier, getting the slingshot from the high end up the banking and then coming down the low end of the banking. And some people prefer to take the low end of the banking and treat it like a normal corner. Certainly, you get into it fairly quickly, although the Garlacht corner, turn number 2, just before it slows you down a bit, which makes I think if Garlacht had been a little bit straighter into Hoekenholz, turn number 3, you would have actually used the banking more effectively out of turn number 3. But nonetheless, an interesting corner with quite steep banking. I did look on Wikipedia how many degrees of banking there are, but I can't recall out of the top of my head. But it's enough to make a difference to a corner rather than just being flat.
Yes. And qualifying is now coming to an end. We're seeing all the drivers crossing the line. I think that's pretty much the end of the session. I don't know if there's anyone that can actually still do a lap. I believe we have Sean Johnson still about to finish his lap, and Timo Smit, and I think perhaps Stan Bezuidenhout are the only drivers that can still complete their laps. For some reason it keeps wanting to show us a replay of Basil going into turn 1. Let's force it around this way.
I think he lost the back end. It just broke away from the actual visuals. But yeah, Tarzan corner is quite daunting. You go through you go into it very fast, and then I think some of the guys over rely on the banking, and then the car oversteers and the back end steps out to the left.
Okay, so we're going to call it there. We're going to go straight into a quick ad break, and we'll be right back for the race.
Right, we look forward to it.
Be back in a moment. Back everyone, we are now back. The drivers are now taking to the grid, as we see some of the drivers already on the grid. We are of course back for the final round of our Alwin 2022 Porsche Supercup, coming to you live from Zandvoort in the Netherlands. This is of course race. It is a 30-minute race. I am your commentator Dennis Mitchell, joined tonight by Sean Woodgate. Sean will introduce himself in a moment. This of course is the final round of our 8-round championship, so in 2 weeks time we'll be starting the British Touring Car Championship, but this is the final round. Just a quick look at our championship standings coming into this round. These are our championship standings at the moment. Looks like Jason Underwood is our champion and won't be beaten. but Jean-Ray Dutoy in second, Jandre Dupinard in third, Chris Collison in fourth, Andre Hildebrand fifth, Basil van Rijn in sixth, Dani Stander seventh, Morné Dutoy in eighth, Marius van Wyk ninth, Andrew Hollum in 10th, Bjorn Buchner in 11th, Javi Goos 12th, Giri Silva in 13th, Hannes Besson 14th, and in 15th place Stan Bezuidenhout. And then with our team championships, which is I think still up for grabs, we have Team Harder Racing in first place, PZN Panel Beaters in second place, Team Gunston in third, GDR Racing in fourth, Deltic Racing fifth, Sim Experience South Africa sixth, BP Racing seventh, spelling error there, but South African Oval League in eighth, Alwin Racing ninth, and Sim Racers Room in 10th place. Then perhaps we can just quickly have a look at our starting order. So in pole position we have Andrew Hollum from Jason Underwood, so Team Harder Racing first and second, Basil van Rijn, PZN in third, Timo Smit in fourth place. In fifth place, Jean-Ray Dutoy. In sixth place, Chris Collison, also for Team Harder Racing. Seventh place, Jandre Dupinard for PZN Panel Beaters. Eighth place, Sean Johnson. In ninth place, Waldo Swiggers. In 10th place, Dani Stander. 11th place, Marius van Wyk. And in 12th place, Bjorn Buchner for Team Gunston Racing. 13th place, Javi Goos for GDR Racing, Rian van der Westhuizen for Alwin Racing in 14th place, and Stan Bezuidenhout for PZN Panel Beaters in 15th place.
Just watching them go around now, some corners they ran out of, I think, sponsors and or names. You'll see they just have turn 9, for instance, is one of them. It just has turn 9 as the number. It doesn't, as well as turn 10. So either they didn't get somebody to sponsor the corner, and they just stuck with turn 9 and turn 10.
We see one of the drivers, I believe Sean Johnson, starting from pit lane, so perhaps he's missed something at the start or had to rejoin the pits, but anyway, he will be starting from pit lane. Hopefully that works to his benefit. So sorry to see that. And of course our championship is brought to us by Alwin Automotive Glass, so if you have any automotive glass requirements or aluminium, you can head over to www.alwin.co.za. And of course, if you're enjoying what you're watching, remember to hit the like and subscribe button to join us for future content.
And there you can see, looking back from the start line, the banking of Arie Luyendyk corner, which is the last corner as they come into the main straight for the start.
Right, we get ready to go, and we're green.
Right, and then the cameraman decides to focus on the car in pit lane, but it looks as though everybody getting away cleanly so far. Tarzan corner, then
contact there between Timo and I believe Jason Underwood, but we have Basil van Rijn taking the lead.
Yeah, great start that he did have as he gets through Genoldsbocht, and then the banked corner. See, there's two very different lines, one low down, one high up, and the slingshot is on one that's high up, but it's blocked very well. And I think there might be a change for the lead as they get through Honzerich on the way to Slotenmakerbocht. Yeah, change for the lead very definitely, and it's going to be exciting to see how the guys get actually used to the different overtaking points. We saw them in the qualifying sessions using the track and even more than just the track. It seems to be a lot of horsepower to keep under control for the circuit. Green flags waving at the moment as they get into the tight section of the circuit, which most motor car racing enthusiasts don't like. But if you're not on the right line in the right place, you can lose a position. As I see almost at the back of the field, there's two that are competing for that position, and it's interesting to watch them take very different lines through the same corner. There's somebody that's going to meet up with the barrier, number 69.
That is Rian van der Westhuizen.
And everybody has to take evasive action to get around him. recognize Ari Lyondijk corner immediately with the banking as they come into the main straight. The first is gone, but second, third, and fourth is very close together. There's a nudge, actually, probably a bit more. He was actually sliding. I don't know why some guys choose racing number 13, but I suppose to each his own.
Yeah, that's Harvey Coase.
Say again?
That is Harvey Coase. I believe that was his race number.
Yeah, I know Harvey for decades, but certainly he's done it all before. I think he was actually using that all on his own, and then the guy that actually gave him the final nudge was just in the wrong place at the right time. The circuit's not extremely long, so can you recall what the qualifying time was? They seem to get through it fairly quickly.
I believe it was a 139.3, I think it was.
Just over a minute and a half, so they get through it quite quickly. And as again, Adams Walk turns 11 and 12 that they get through, and it's the tight sections. It's a right-left combination that they've actually got to get through, and then after that there's a straight section which just gives them a chance to set up the car for Kuma Bocht. Kuma, of course, being a tyre manufacturer, turn 13. They through Kuma Bocht, which is about a 90-degree right-hander. They then set the car up for Ari Lyondijk and the main straight. And you can see Ari Lyondijk, you can recognize that banking overnight. The Ferris wheel helps as well in the background. And then into the main straight they go with the main grandstand on the left-hand side, the commentator's booth on the right.
As we're looking back from, I believe it's Jason Underwood at Timo there.
The replay there was on car number 36. A side note that it actually lost it. Stan had lost it all himself and put it into the barrier, but seems to have gotten going again. One barrier to the other and takes out one of the brake markers.
Yeah, hopefully that doesn't affect anyone. Perhaps we can just go to a single screen
just in
view
front of
here.
him.
I believe some of the skins are not quite loaded correctly on the second piece here. It's showing the incorrect skin as we're looking back. We are looking back at this particular one. We're looking back at Timo. No, sorry, that's looking back at Waldo Swigger. So this is on board with Donnie Stander looking back at Waldo Swiggers.
I must say that having been to the circuit, the graphics are extremely good. It's very, very realistic. Having been around the circuit as well, some of the things that actually stand out that you can recognize instantly having been there. But the track is a nice one. It takes all elements of setting up a racing car very well. You have the slow bits that turn tight, where downforce isn't that important. But then there are the fast sweeps. You have to have good downforce, which is mechanical grip. And this is Ari Lyondijk. Is somebody over the barrier? Are they going to bring out a safety car for that? We'll have to wait and see. Ari Lyondijk, if you lose it over with the banking, you really get to the barriers very quickly, because you'll see it's still some of the old design, not like the newer circuits that have cement and paint and AstroTurf and all that sort of thing. They still use gravel traps to a great extent at Zandvoort. I think he actually just lost the car on the inside of the circuit, which is terrible because you then don't have directional stability, and once it does bite again, it's almost like a high side in a motorcycle. It sends you off in the wrong direction. Somebody actually going through underneath him by the looks of it.
Yeah, that was quite a strange shot, that. Not too sure what happened there. Could have been a little bit of the internet as well playing tricks.
If they've done anything with the curbing at all, because I think we discussed it last week after the race, the sausage curbs that aren't very nice and certainly a bit extreme if you do lose the circuit, which is not the idea. Nobody goes to the circuit. Well, there are times that you use more than just the circuit width, but in a case like the sausage curbs that we had that specific weekend, they wreck the car, and also I think personally they're dangerous. So not something that I like personally, but they're there. Then one must just take recognition of the fact that they are there, and then change your driving style to avoid them completely.
Currently looking back from Yandre Dippenaar at Jean de Toys. He's all over his rear end at the moment. Let's see if he can get him down the straight.
The straight's nice and long, and then also, of course, I think if you're defending, you would probably take a bit of a line that's slightly more to the inside of the corner at Tarzan, and it looks as though he's, I think, held on to. That was our race leader for the first few laps taken, but certainly an interesting race. I think this is second and third that we see now as they go over Monza.
Yeah, two of them having a nice battle there.
Yeah, certainly they are. I'm not even looking at how much time we still have left on this race. But it certainly is. Well, second and third definitely is a great race to be watching.
Only 2 minutes left to go.
Yeah, so we're still going to be in for quite a bit of fun if they're getting anything. And then is that second place getting, was that actually for, no, that's actually for position at the back of the field where these guys are fighting it out with each other. So I'm just casting my eyes quickly to try and find car number 5, which is Swifters. He's involved in that battle further down the pack, but still fighting it out nonetheless. Underwood in the second place. He's holding on for dear life, trying to stay ahead of Van Rijn, is it? Is it car number 99?
Yes, that's Basil Van Rijn, yes.
Yes. Actually listed as car number 9, which is that Jean-Ray Dippenaar.
Jean-Ray Dippenaar is number 9, yes, our teammate.
Yes. But this is further down in the pack.
Yeah, he's right behind Johnny Thunder.
Yeah, nice race nice dice that these two are going at each other. And there again, the difference between the high road and the low road in Albion, Scotland before you. But Tarzan corner, certainly you have to make your mind up whether you're going to take the corner or defend the line. That was sort of a bit of both. And this is the back corner as they come out of turn 3, which is Hoefenholzbocht. The corner, this is the slight left-hander going over Monza, which is turns 4 and 5. And then Slotenmakerbocht, which is slightly left-hander, somebody losing it all on his lonesome, coming out of that. And then you're into Scheiflak, which is a 90-degree right. It's also a tricky corner, but it slows the cars right down quite a bit. And then they've got a slight bit before they get to Masters corner again, which is another 90-degree right. And also hard on the brakes, hard on the tires. And then they get into turn 9, turn 10, a little bit of a sweep, and then the very slow turn 11 and 12.
At the moment, our leaders are really close together, 7 tenths between the teammates. So perhaps we can have a quick look at that.
Going through there now, into the main straight. Nice place for drafting, if you close enough. Hard on the gearbox. Very ginger on the throttle coming out of that corner. As I said, if you go through Garlacht slows you down, that's Garlacht there, and then turn 3, which is Hoefenholz, and that's the one that's banked. There you see the two teammates take two totally different lines. The one goes high and stays high, whereas the other went in low and then used the height to actually slow the car down through the corner. Not sure which one's the best, having been a racing driver myself, never mind even in the back. But certainly different lines work well for different drivers. But more than one line to take through the same.
Well, this is one of my favorite parts of the track, the way they hop the curbs there while the car's at the edge of adhesion.
Yes. It's a right-left combination that they get through turn 9 and turn 10, and then just after that they have like a sweeping portion, and that sets them up. Hans Ernst corner, which is a combination turn 11 and 12, which is right-left. There's the right section, there's the left section, and as you said, they just take the wheels over. Well, there they actually take it onto the rumble strip as well, and then they'll set it up through Kuma Bocht. And once they exit Kuma, you'll see the banking of Leyendijk, Arie Leyendijk, and that goes up the hill. One of the guys that actually lost his life at Zandvoort, one of the marshals got to him, but now I'm talking decades ago. The marshals weren't kitted out with Nomex fireproof suits, and the fire in the car was burning so fiercely that they couldn't get to him to get him out of the car. They were there on time, that had they been able to get him out of the car, he probably would have survived. But that, as we all know, whenever something happens that takes the life of somebody, then safety is paramount, and they change something to make it safer the next time round. And fireproof gear for marshals became compulsory after that. All the way around the circuit, those hills that you see, if you've actually walked the circuit at the top, where you see people standing there, those are dunes, the dunes of Zandvoort.
Ooh, our leader getting a bit sideways, so to butt him there.
Yes, he's battling. I think the pressure from his teammate is starting to tell. And the longer they spend on the track, 17 and a half minutes to go, or thereabouts, it's going to be interesting. More than halfway, in fact, is the rubber going to last? So that's the interesting bit.
Yeah, let's see whose rubber is the best towards the end.
Yes. And of course, is that number 77 that had a moment there? Yes.
Yes, it is. Maurice van Beek.
Yeah, bouncing it all over all the curves, and I think that is, as memory serves me correctly, the combination of Woensrug into Slotenmakerbocht. They actually, in real life, they have a camera at Scheefvlak, which is turn 7. The right-hander after turns 4, 5, 6, which is Woensrug in combination with Slotenmaker at Scheefvlak. On race day, you actually have the marshal's camera. I think it's actually a trackside camera that they display, which makes commentary. The track camera layout is very good. The location of the commentary booth is poor, because we get to see virtually the start, out of Arie Leyendijk, turn 14, up to Tarzan Corner. That's about all you can see that you can commentate live on. The rest is covered by camera that you can see going around the circuit, and also depending how good the person is doing the editing work, which camera they switch to determines what story you can tell. See a yellow as they're going through the time. So
Harvey Gers has gone off there.
Yeah, that was the flashing yellow that we saw was Harvey in the gravel trap. I see the race leaders, that team have now separated a little bit, so a little bit of breathing space there.
Let's just see. We have a lot of YouTube commentators, or people commentating in YouTube regarding Jandre Dippenaar. So let's have a look at Jandre. How is he doing? He's in 5th place at the moment. Quite far behind Tima, but he at least has pulled away from Donny Stander. It was Johnson behind him, so Sean Johnson has unfortunately been passed. It looks like he might have made a mistake, because he is slowly dropping down the field. And yes, he has indeed spun. Hopefully that's something he can recover from.
Is that the race leader that gets to him as he departs the grass back onto the circuit?
No, that was Donny Stander.
It's Donny Stander. Just for a bit, I thought it's one of the. There's one of the leaders.
There was one of the leaders after, yes.
Yes. Holland and Underwood might be in the lead, but the back markers certainly can have an influence on the game. I love Arie Leyendijk and the way that it blends into the main straight. And then, as I said, they've tarred it all the way up Tarzan, shall I call it Tarzan Hill? So that makes a difference as well. Apparently in the old days they left it as dune sand. So if you went up the hill, you got stuck, and a tractor would go out and tow you out of, so that you'd be out of the racing line, as it were, into the desert sand.
Looks like the leaders are starting to get close together again.
Yeah. I'll be shot if I call that toilet corner, that's turn 3, which is Hoegenholzbocht. But you really have such a stunning view out of it when you can actually walk against the fence all the way and be very, very close to the cars through turns 2 and 3, which us there's some races that you take a race off and one of your co-commentators then takes over the race. And the two places that I enjoyed standing was Gerlachbocht, which is turn 2, and then Hoegenholzbocht, which is turn 3. So really great places to watch the circuit because you get to be so close to the cars coming past you.
Currently watching the battle between Bjorn Buchner and Waldo Swiggers. They're nice and close together at the moment. Unfortunately, it looks like Bjorn Buchner's teammate Andre Hildebrand had an issue when we went into race because we don't have him in the race. I'm not sure why. He was able to join earlier and then suddenly couldn't.
Same note, number 36 is using track and more, and that's why I think from the cars that are still on the lead lap, he finds himself, well, it's in third last position, but he's way down, and I think more than likely also been lapped by now.
On board with Jean-Louis Dutoit.
Sorry, Dennis, I was wiggling up the top of you there.
Sorry about that.
There you can see the regulation change. As I say, except for Tarzan corner and then also turn 3 and over Monza. The Netherlands, as they say, is very flat until you ride a bicycle. Then you realize it isn't that flat. And I speak from experience. Transporting my 120 kilogram body on a bicycle, you find the hills in the Netherlands. But that corner, that's good. I also recognize immediately it's the set of corners that make up Hoegenholzbocht, Groenzerig, turns 5, 6, which is Sleutelbach. The 7 is the sharp right-hander, which is Geefvlak, another right-hander, Masters Corner, another more than right hand is just turn 9, and then the sharp left is turn 10, which also doesn't have a name.
A really good battle going on between these two at the moment.
You must have read my mind. I was about to say exactly the same thing. It's one that Team Gunston.
He's just lost a little bit there.
Have they been able to pounce? Yes, he did. Change for that position.
So Wallace finally managed to get past him, thanks to an error.
Well, pressure, and that's the thing they say. You've got to be there. You've got to pressure the driver ahead. If he doesn't have anybody behind him, he can take his own line at his own leisure. But if you're right there behind him, somebody gets into the barrier coming into the main straight.
Harvey goes.
Harvey was lucky to survive that one. As you see the banking on Harry Lyondike corner coming into the main straight with one of the Team Gunston cars, certainly is it makes for interesting driving.
Let's have a look at our other camera at Jandre Duppenaar. He's got Jean-Louis Dutoit right behind him at the moment.
The only corner I can think off the top of my head in South African circuit racing, which is banked, is your favourite or your home stomping ground, is Cape Town corner at Kyalami.
Yes, which is quite a heavy banking as well.
Yes.
I know that corner intimately. I broke my collarbone there.
Oh, yeah. Now, the other one Cape Town doesn't have, I'm not sure if it does, but I know at the end of the back straight of the old Welcome circuit, you used to have anthills to contend with. And anthills and motorcars don't go well together. Cape Town, you're also off into what's effectively desert sand. So, yeah, I can think if you're onto the brakes and you get it wrong, as we've got is this first and second?
It is.
And it's a very, very close race. No quarter asked or given, I don't think, as the director decides to go to another race that's also very close. Is that Jandre's car? I just think we got covered.
Yes, that's Jandre in front of us, on board with Jandre.
Yes.
They also having a great battle.
Jandre, so I get them confused regularly, so my apologies in advance.
You're not the only one.
Yeah.
There's an extra letter in Jandre, and then obviously the surnames.
And Yanni is Yanni. Jandre. I see he's got some support on the YouTube channel, whether they Chantal Sports Jandre, and I'm just having a quick look. Who was it that was referring to Janneman? I think that was probably Rudy van der Westhuizen that was giving support to Janneman. So I think that's Jandre van der Westhuizen.
And it looks like he's making the move.
Inside line.
Oh, it was close.
Now the curbing is in the way there. Had there been more tar, he probably would have made it stick. But immediately you can see that the car ahead of him, John Gray, goes on the defensive and the back end steps out. So forces him into a mistake, which is of course to his advantage to catch up again and try and remount. There's that Ferris wheel we just from over, and you actually see the main grandstand over the top of the Mickey Mouse section. You can see the main grandstand on the other side of the dune, but you've still got to go through quite a lot of corners to actually get to it, and it's visible just as they go out of Arie Luyendyk into the main straight. You see the Ferris wheel. This is Arie Luyendyk now as they come into the main straight, and if the Ferris wheel has popped up just for an instant on the left. That's the main straight. Nice pit facilities, I must say. Also, other than the pit facilities, a very good hospital facility that I've observed. A nice press room. There's using the track and then some on the outside. It's not the place to be for those corners. As I say, you've got to get to Plagbocht, Hoegenholzbocht, and pay attention to the corners themselves. You can find yourself in trouble. And I think the race leaders are going to be getting through some of the back markers pretty soon.
Yeah, I believe that is... Oh, that's Chris Collison. That's actually for position. Another team harder racing right behind Donnie Stander at the moment.
I'm just having a look at them now. And yeah, is that Jandre and Jandre again?
Yes, those are those two back together.
Yes, so they are having a nice... I remember in the days of touring car racing, when touring car racing was probably at its highlight, and the Alphas were doing very well in Germany, whatever. There were some riders out of Italy called Alessandro Nannini and Nicola Larini. And I tell you, listen to the commentators and the British commentators those days, and they battled, especially when the two cars were close to each other with the names Alessandro Nannini and Niccolo Larini.
I wouldn't want to say that after a drink or two.
Well, yeah, I think, and that's the thing, that the unwritten rule of commentating, well, actually the written rule that was in our constitution, that you don't partake in any alcohol while commentating. But yes, as you say, difficult to pronounce when you're stone cold sober, never mind if you've had a drink or two in. Just get back to another view to see that we have 6 minutes and a bit to go. So everything to race for still in the first and second place, which we see in view at the moment. They are very, very close, and that certainly isn't done and dusted. They get through those. There are three right-handers, if I remember correctly, in a row. As you get out of, for the moment my mind departs me, out of Holzbocht, there's a few that are just basically sweet, but then the right-handers are Schijfvlak, Mastersbocht, turn 9, and then the first one again to the left, which is also 90 degrees thereabouts, is turn 10, which is another corner with no name. The car stuck against the barrier, and I think that's number 36.
That's Stan Bezuidenhout.
Yeah, Stan Bezuidenhout. As I say, of those running, he's now also a lap down. If you look also, Van Wyk ahead of him is number 77. He's more than a minute and a quarter behind the race leaders. So that's also more than likely going to go a lap down before the race is over. But there are the race leaders certainly very, very close to each other. I think if I've mentioned it to everybody out there last week, my apologies for saying it again. When they do the Masters, the historic Grand Prix in Zandvoort, they race like we're racing now, a half-hour race, and that's it. In the Netherlands, they have some races that are as long as half an hour. And if you have a safety car, yellow flags, red flag, well, I wouldn't say very rarely, but it really has to be very, very bad for them to red flag it. And more than likely, that's normally when there's oil on the surface that has to be fixed, because you don't want racing cars until they can get, or alternatively, if they can get the safety car out in good time and slow the cars right down and then get the marshals to work on the oil. They run timed races rather than the format that we run in South Africa is so many laps. And it's always the contentious issue, do the laps behind the safety car towards the race? Well, in the historic Grand Prix, is this that young? No, those are the race leaders that are at each other here. This is very close racing.
No, that's Donnie Stander and Chris Collison.
They that's of course, it's a solid green on top of the bonnet and the roof. So
hard to tell from the bonnet of the one when you're looking back at the colours of the other.
Yeah.
A little bit of a lock up there. I believe that's Sean Johnson right behind them. Oh, Donnie Stander loses it.
There's another one
is parked there as well. I'm not sure how that car got into the air, but okay.
I think that's coming out of the turn number 3, Hugenholzbocht, but you must get it really wrong badly to get it to launch. Nonetheless, the graphics decided that that's the way that it went. You're going to see a replay here. No, I thought we were going to see a replay. It goes into slow-mo. Maybe we do get a little bit wiser as to see how that car ended up there.
Alright, it's Donnie just losing the rear. So getting a bit airborne.
Yeah.
Seem to be getting a lot of those weird glitches tonight.
Yeah, the software certainly having its own version of how things happened. This is for first and second that we're looking at now.
Yes, that is.
And certainly with Holland and Underwood separated by 6 thereabouts, I think it's less than that now. It certainly is everything. This is the tight section of the circuit. As I said, those corners with the names. Get through the right, left, and you can see the bandstand in the distance. Still got to get through all the bits before it, but certainly tight racing that they are keeping each other very, very honest, even inside the team. Holland number 54 and Underwood number 2 behind him. So everything to fight for, not in the championship, but certainly every time I see this car that's in picture now, I think it reminds me so much of the Rothmans colours of old.
Yeah.
I think it was it Nigel Mansell, and then thereafter Gilles Villeneuve. They were still running in the Rothmans colours. Yeah, here's first and second place and certainly fighting it all out as we have a replay of some of the guys actually trying to avoid the car behind him from having the effect of slipstreaming. So trying to break the toe. But the negative thing about that is you have a back marker in your way and you've then got to come back onto the circuit and you cover a longer distance having to weave twice. So it doesn't always work the way that it's intended.
Yeah. Let's look back at the Lizzo as they go past Bjorn there. I thought it was pretty fast past him.
Yeah.
I love how the car hops the curb over there. My favourite part of the track.
So up to position number 11 has been lapped now. So there are 4 cars, well, they're in the race, some of them a little bit further down, but the race leaders certainly have a good pace. And if you look now, the gap for the last time, it's as good as, well, I wouldn't say as good as makes it, about half a second or so, as you see them come into, again, those sets of right-handers. And well, this is the tight bits, which is actually, if I have it correctly, turns 11 and 12, which combination make Ernstbocht. And there's Arie Leinbeck. Last corner coming in straight. I repeat myself, it's just the way it works.
I believe Arie Leinbeck's also been modified slightly. I think the exit is slightly different for the Formula 1 as we now go to a nice...
Oh, I'm so glad. We decided to pan away from that. That was a move for position. We just have to wait and see. Are they still...
We've been caught out. The race is over. We've been caught napping.
Did we miss the flag?
We did. It was so close that we missed the flag. So that was Andrew Holland taking the win from Jason Underwood. And Basil van Rijn in 3rd place. Timo Smith in 4th place. A couple of drivers already in the pits. Yandre Duppenaar in 4th place.
Yeah.
Coming across the line now with Jean-Louis de Toy right behind him. That was pretty close.
Yeah. So, yeah, defending all the way right to the end. And this is for the minor placings. Well, we say minor. It's 5th and 6th between cars numbers 9 and 7. Car number 36 percent. Now it's still battling with which direction the car should be going in.
believe Javi is the only driver that's on a lap with Rian van der Vestes and right behind him, so just changed into our other shot for that. So they're still coming around. We are now coming up to the start-finish line. Will Rian get Javi?
The finish line, I must say, is quite a distance away of the exit of the circuit, but had it been further down as to, well, more halfway than I'd say about a third of the way, it could be an influence for the finish if you actually get the right slipstreaming out of Arie Luyendyk. But in this case, we didn't see any pass there, I don't think. I think it stayed as it was.
It was close, but it was just too close to the line.
Yeah. As you see the CM.com bridge. There's one car station. I think that's the side note.
That's the end of the race. Before it changes to the next session, I am going to jump out. We can go to an ad break, and from there we can then get the other drivers in and have a bit of a chat with our top three, and then perhaps a chat with the couple of other drivers regarding the team's championship. So let's jump to a quick ad break, and we'll be back shortly. All right, welcome back, everyone. This, of course, is our interviews for the final round, round 8, coming to you live from Zandvoort in the Netherlands. I'm your commentator, Dennis Mitchell, joined by Sean Woodgate this evening once again. Sean, of course, having been a real-world commentator here at Zandvoort and knows the track very well. So perhaps, Sean, you could head off with the interviews for the first driver, or first drivers, or all the drivers, but perhaps you could head up the questions.
Thanks, Dennis. We were actually just chatting while you were setting up the interviews, and the point of discussion was how some of the drivers get off the line so quickly in the start. So essentially what it meant was that it's not whether you're on pole or not, it's how quickly you get off the line. And it looks like Basil and Andrew, I think it was Jason that was saying he just doesn't understand how they get off the line that quickly, but they did. So tell us, guys, what do you do differently?
Yeah, I don't know. I just floor it, put it the first, and that's it.
Yeah. And talking about the start, quite daunting, Tarzan corner with the banking and this massive dune in front of you, or do you just take it as if it were any other corner?
That corner is scary, I must say.
Yeah, you in race condition, you approach it quite quickly, but certainly Andrew got it all together in the race. Other than that, Andrew, you guys were talking about you're actually quite tired after a half-hour race at Zandvoort. Tell us about it.
It's just a very busy lap. The straight isn't that long, and everywhere else you're turning all the time. And with these cars, you've got to blip just right, and it's easy to make a mistake. Fortunately, I drove better than I did last weekend, and everything went well.
And this is to you, Jason, you guys, you and Andrew were at each other's throat for the remaining 10, 12 minutes of the race at least. It was really, really very close. If you look at the winning margin, I think it was 0.6, well, less than a second, very definitely. You guys weren't under any form of team orders or anything. It was go all the way to the checkered flag, was it?
Well, don't hit each other.
Yeah, the only team orders was don't take each other out. But other than that, I gave 101% to try and get past Andrew, and I couldn't. I gave it everything I could. Flat out, I had no rear tires left at the end. It was make or break, really. But no, full credit to Andrew. He defended like a champ. He was fast where he needed to be fast. But yeah, no, it was one of the more exciting races I've had, especially the first 2-3 laps with Basil and Jandre coming past me with rocket fuel. And on those starts, Basil's not going to tell us his secret because there's another championship to come. But no, it was really good. Really enjoyed that.
Basil, you got off the line really, really well and showed them the way for, I think, the first portion, well, half of the lap, until they eventually did get up on you and pass you. But an exciting race nonetheless for you, going into the lead and then having the teammates behind you. At what point did they actually get past you?
Yeah, the first lap was difficult for me. The car was just understeering everywhere. So when Andrew caught up to me, I just made a bit of space for him, and then also the same with Jason. And then then I made a mistake, and Timo went also past. And then he made a mistake again, and then I was trying to catch Jason and Andrew, but yeah, no, they were just on it. Every lap was just perfect. So. But all in all, it was fun.
Yeah, a busy circuit. Andrew, your point of view, racing a circuit that has, from what I could gather, 1, 2, 3 quite seriously banked corners compared to some circuits that have no banking whatsoever. Does it change your driving style? I saw the two of you, Andrew and Jason, take two very different lines through turn number 3, which is at the back of the, shall I say, the pits. One took the low road and one took the high road, but it sort of squares off the circuit it squares off the corner if you take it high, and then you get like this is it coming up now, and you actually get a good exit out of the corner. Yet I see, Jason, you preferred the low road out of it and also seem to get good speed out of the corner.
Yeah, Hugenholtz is since they've changed it, you can take almost any line you want around it. It's quite a fun corner. So yeah, I tended to sort of take the high line to get a faster exit speed, sort of like you do on an oval. You can sort of diamond it like on an oval, a short oval. It's quite a good corner now.
Yeah. Also, Dennis and I were talking about tyre wear with, I think there was 12, 13 minutes at least. It was just past or just before halfway, in fact, because some of the guys were using the back end specifically was stepping out a lot. And we were talking about tyre wear and whether tyres are going to last all of the race. I think for some competitors, they in fact didn't. But you guys seem to, well, somebody sends me a message, which is very unprofessional. You guys seem to get your tyres to last only just to the end, if there ever is something like that.
Yeah, I think my left tyres were both on 50% at the end. I can't remember what the right-hand tyres were. I think the rear was 60-something and the front about 50 again.
Yeah, because if you look at the layout of the circuit, you've got Tarzan, which is right-hander, then Scheeflak, which is turn 7, is right, Masters Corner, turn 8 is right, turn 9 is right, and then for the first time again at turn 10, you have a left. Then you have a right-left coming through Hans Ernst, and then again a right. So being a clockwise circuit, it must be quite heavy on the left-hand tyres.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So a good beer and a lot to talk about, but certainly a race well run. And Dennis, questions from you?
All right, thank you. I guess the only questions are, to start off with Jason. So, Jason, you are officially now our champion. So let's just change to another screen quickly and give your official congratulations. You are the official Sim Experience Alwin 2022 Porsche Supercup champion. So congratulations to yourself. We haven't yet got the updated points for the team championship, but I believe Team Harder Racing has just taken it. Since you guys were 1-2 in the race, I don't think PZN could have beaten you. So I believe it's a drivers championship and a team championship. So perhaps you can give us a little bit of feedback on that and a bit of history on the team as well.
Well, yeah, thank you very much. It was definitely, a championship full of very, very, very fast drivers. I want to say thank you to Chris Collison, to Andrew, who has, both of them have pushed all the way to the end, as you saw tonight. Very, very good. And thank you also to, I think it was PZN panel beaters, to all the team members there. They pushed us right to the end. It wouldn't have been the same championship without everyone, and also a very good turnout for the last event. So yeah, it's Team Harder Racing. We started about 3 months ago with Chris, Andrew, and myself, who took on this Porsche Cup challenge, a newly formed team, which has got some inspiration from some British touring cars. And yeah, it's just been a revelation. We've given it everything we've had. So very happy to have won the team championship. And even more happy that we've come away with the double championship. So congrats to all the team members, and as Sean said, a nice cold beer in a shoe will be happening shortly.
I'm sure you can share some of those pictures on the group, perhaps on Discord.
Will do.
All right, then let's go back to the interview room. And since we have the top three here and everyone else has left the Discord chat, so we can't bring anyone else in, I was hoping to bring a few of the other drivers in just to chat about the championship and possibly about the upcoming championship, the British Touring Car Championship. So the three of you have to do. So perhaps let's start with Andrew. Andrew, we'll be going for a week break, and then in 2 weeks' time we take a new championship, British Touring Car Championship, so something completely different. What's your take on that coming from this championship?
They're very different cars to drive. It'll be fun, I think. Two different cars as well. So as we saw in the test race, Zandvoort suited the front-wheel drive, I think, and East London the rear-wheel drive. It'll be interesting.
Yes, something we also noticed in the Zandvoort race was that the Infinity definitely didn't have the overall pace, but it seemed to come stronger in the race. Almost like the front wheel drives were burning out their tyres a lot quicker with the nature of the track. So that might be something that comes into, certainly with most of the British tracks, there's a lot of undulation in that. So tracks like Knockhill and those sort of tracks will definitely put a lot more wear on the front tyres. So maybe we'll see the Infinities coming good in the race through some of those tracks as well.
Hopefully. I think tyre management on the Corolla is going to be difficult for, being front wheel drive. It's easy to kill them very quickly. I think it's harder for the Q50 to destroy its tyres.
Yes.
And we're used to driving rear-wheel drive cars more than front-wheel drive. Maybe they'll get used to it and cope.
It could just be a technique with practice, yes.
Yeah.
All right, then let's head to Jason. Perhaps, Jason, you can give us your take on this championship versus the British touring cars. You're also keen on the British touring cars, and what's your car choice for the British touring cars, and perhaps why is it your car choice for the British touring cars?
Well, firstly, this championship has been amazing. The cars weren't very easy to drive, but once you got the knack of them, they were quite exciting. So, as everybody says, one door closes, another one opens onto the British touring cars. I've gone for the Infinity rear-wheel drive monster. Not as quick as the Toyota, but as Andrew said, it looks after its tires a little bit better. So it will all balance out hopefully on the last lap, and we can have some exciting racing. But definitely a lovely car to drive, or lovely. Both of them are very nice to drive. The tracks are all British tracks, if I'm not mistaken.
All except one.
All except one. Okay, so yeah, looking forward to it. It's another challenge, and by all the test races, there are a lot of fast guys and a lot more faster guys than what I am. So I need to go and practice a lot. But looking forward to it. As myself, and all three members of Team Harder will be there. So good signs to come.
I think the championship's going to be a lot closer. The lap times, certainly in our testing races and in other events we've done, have been extremely close across the board with all the different tracks. But the schedule for that round, or for that series, just to let everyone know, we will have Donington Park will be round 1, Silverstone National will be round 2, Knockhill will be round 3, which is a track courtesy of Lasercut, who gave us exclusive access to that, so thank you very much for that. Round 4 will be from Thruxton. Round 5 will be from Alton Park. Round 6 will be coming to you from Assen. We don't have a decent Snetterton. We have a Snetterton, but it's not very good, so we will be using Assen, which is used in some of the other British racing series, including the British Superbikes. So we've chosen Assen. It's a very nice track, and it's a very good rendition of it. Round 7 will be from Croft. The designer of that Croft mod, by the way, is now the official rFactor 2 track designer. So that was an old mod that he made, but very good. So Donington Park and Brands Hatch are official DLC, which he has made, and Croft is an old track that he had made. And then the final round will be from Brands Hatch. Then perhaps our final, just to give a bit of a catch-up there, perhaps Basil, you can give us your take on this championship versus the British Touring Car Championship, what car you're going for, why you're going for it, and so forth.
The Porsche was difficult, to understand the car, the nature of the car, and I was in the beginning. I was telling Andre, I don't know, it's not working for me. But yeah, he was just telling me, listen, just keep practicing and stuff. But I'm getting to understand rFactor a bit better. And then with the British touring cars, I like the Corolla, mostly the shape of the car, and then also I did a lot of TCR racing in front of our cars. So yeah, we'll just do some practicing and check it out.
So you've chosen your car based on appearance, not by driving, or is it also because of the practice that you've had in front wheel drives and other championships that you just didn't bother looking at the rear wheel drive?
Yeah, I think if you get the front drive right and you understand it and do a lot of laps on it, just to understand, like the brake bias and everything, I think that car is going to be unbeatable. Um, I'm just so used to front wheel drives because I did a lot of front drive racing myself, Polo Cup a lot of years ago and stuff like that. But I think it depends on the tracks. Some tracks the rear drive will be better, and some tracks the front wheel drive will be better. So you must just be consistent and then take it from there.
And certainly from our test races, you seem to be one of the drivers running in the front as well. So are you quite excited for your prospects in that championship?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be awesome. A lot of the drivers struggle with the Porsche, and a lot of the drivers they're doing this league also. So it's gonna be a big change in front. We must start practicing. So let's see.
All right, then. Sorry, who was that?
No, then I just want to thank you. A big thanks to my team, PZN, and then also Team Harder. All the guys are awesome to race with, and then also to you, Dennis. All your hard work from some experience. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much as well. And then Sean, any last questions from your side?
I was just listening to what the guys were saying, and I think it might be a question of physics that in the front wheel drives you're going to be propelling the car with the front wheels as well as doing the turning, whereas with a rear wheel drive you're going to propel the car with the rear wheels and steer it with the front. So it might just be a little bit of a less of a workload on the front tires than what it might be in the fronts. But as Basil was saying, I think if you can get a front wheel drive set up really well, then it could be quick. It's going to be interesting having two different cars, as you say, in the same championship compared to having a one-make championship. It just does add another element to the racing. And then also, of course, how quickly the guys can adapt to whatever choice they've made. In that, the cars are going to have less power than the Porsches, so that's going to be something different. They don't have as big rubber as what the Porsches have, so that's another thing. But it certainly is going to be very interesting to see the touring cars and how the guys cope with what they've got available to them.
All right, I want to see if I can maybe transition into something and we can maybe then see what I wanted to show regarding that. So the schedule for the British touring cars, which I just briefly gone through: Darlington Park, Silverstone, Knockhill, Thruxton, Alton Park, Assen, Craft, and Brands Hatch. And as we alluded to, we will have two different cars, so I'm just going to put them both up on screen like that. So we have the Toyota, which is a front-wheel drive car, hatchback, and then we have the sedan of the Infiniti, which is a rear-wheel drive car. Both are six-speed cars. Their weight is neither here nor there, 1,280 and 1,270 kilograms. The torque is about 400 each Newton meters. Horsepower, there's slightly more horsepower for the Toyota. But otherwise, very, very similar cars. It is a well-controlled spec car. So I think that will make for good racing in our following championships. So I think that should be pretty fantastic. Let's head back to our interviews again then quickly. All right, so let's call it quits from there and say goodbye to everyone. So I'm going to say thank you to everyone. Perhaps we can get some final words from the drivers. Say goodbye to everyone for the night, and also just give whatever thanks you want to for any of your fellow YouTube watchers and supporters. So let's start with Andrew. Any shout outs from your side?
I don't think I have any YouTube supporters, but thanks Jason for asking me to drive. It's been good driving for your team, and Chris and you have both been good teammates. Dennis, you've run a very good series, so thanks, and
Thank
Sean
you.
for the commentary, and all the competitors for making it possible. It's been fun.
Thank you, and well done on your race win tonight.
Thank you.
And then Jason, anything from your side?
Yeah, well, I've said thank you to my teammates already, but you know what? Why not say thank you again? So thank you, Andrew, and thank you, Chris. Thank you, Team Harder. Thank you, PZN boys. Dennis, thank you to yourself. Sean, has been awesome having you on board. Hopefully you can stay and continue with us into the BTC stuff. And all my YouTube supporters, all my family members back home in South Africa, all the family here in the UK, all my friends that are watching. Yep, thank you very, very much. And Andrew, congrats on the victory. Well done.
And then that leaves you finally, Basil, if you want to give a shout out to any of your supporters and anyone else.
Let me start again. Just saying thanks to the team. And then also PZN for supporting us. Jandre, Jandre, and James. Hopefully James will be back soon. His PC is broken, so we'll sort it out. And then, to Sean, also joining on the commentating. It's very nice. Yeah, Dennis, thanks to you, man. You're doing most of the work, sorting everything out. And the team order, the guys, the racing is so clean. And it's been a pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and well done to all you guys. I'm going to now kick you guys out of the commentary booth, so perhaps Sean and I can say our final goodbyes for the night. So I'm just
everybody.
slowly going to remove you all. Another thing, just a little minor thing, our drivers in the Discord that have championships to their belt will have a little trophy next to them. So currently Jason has one trophy next to his belt from a previous championship that he won. It'll now go to 2 trophies there, so you'll now be a dual champion with some experience South Africa.
It makes it interesting to see. I like the idea of the BTC cars having more than one car. I remember them in the old days. I don't know if you can recall the Volvo station wagon that they used to Jan Lammers.
It got banned for being more aerodynamic than a sedan.
Yes, but you know what really worked with those cars is that the wheels were really, really right on the corner of the car, which is why it made it so well, handle so well. Or put it this way, the wheels were more to the extreme of each corner. So the setup was really, really good. And who would have thought that this thing that looks like a brick was actually very aerodynamic? So very interesting.
And also a lot larger than the other cars, so harder to pass. It was faster in the straight line and harder to get past. So it was other drivers that decided they didn't think that was fair enough, and they lodged complaints, and it was eventually banned for that.
Yeah. Actually met Jan Lammers in person both at Zandvoort and at Zwartkops. He's tiny. He's really, really short. He's really, really he's thin, and which is probably ideal for a racing driver. And he was the one driver, I'm just trying to think who used to race the other of the very square Volvos. But then we had the Vauxhall Cavalier, was it?
Yes, that was
racing. I'm just thinking back, and this is many years, and the battle that was on between the rear-wheel drives and the front-wheel drives. And then, of course, if you go to the German championship, they were running the DTM. The Alphas ran in that, and if I remember correctly, the Alpha was front-wheel drive, but very competitive against the Mercedes and the BMWs, which were rear-wheel drive. So it's going to be very interesting to see if they can reproduce that with the championship. Even though we've only got 2 models of cars, it's going to be interesting, the front versus the rear-wheel drive battle, and how you've got to change your driving style to adapt to the few factors that I didn't mention. Thinner tires, less horsepower, all those sort of things. You've got to be, I think, a little bit more refined. Whereas, with the loads of horsepower in the Porsche Cup, the Super Cup, they could actually, the horsepower helped them out of a lot of situations. But I think with the BTC, it's going to be very different.
Yes, I think it'll be a fantastic championship. I think it'll make for exciting racing. It's going to be a different format to our current championship. So it'll be 2 races. The first race will be, you'll be a qualifying. You'll qualify. You'll start the race in the position that you qualify in. The second race will be a reverse grid, which I think will also play into the hands of certain drivers because these cars are extremely close lap time wise. But because of the different characteristics, that will also change the way that you race your second race, because in the first race I think the Toyotas will pull away and then the Infinitis will catch up. But in race 2, the Infiniti, which takes about 2 laps to warm its tires up, will be now starting maybe further ahead and now have to defend for 2 laps, and then it'll maybe pull away from the Toyota. So we might see a little bit of strategy coming into play there as well. or see the drivers having to manage their tires a bit. It'll also hopefully mean that we might have drivers fighting for victory in the race too that don't usually fight for the victory, so it'll make it a lot more exciting for everyone involved.
Are you going to reverse the whole grid?
Yes,
Or,
it will be a full reverse grid.
Oh, that's going to be interesting, because that's going to mean that the guy finishing last, well, he'll probably have to get used to all these cars coming past him at a rate in race 2. But then again, the race winner out of race 1 will have to pass all this traffic and be very careful at doing so, and then to get back to the front again. And also it means that some of the guys that are less competitive have, specifically in the second race, a chance of actually scoring good points.
Yes. And also the way we're going to do it, which is still, it might change, but at the moment we're thinking of race 1 will be a standing start, race 2 will probably be a rolling start, because the difference is the guys that are usually at the back aren't as fast maybe off the line, and maybe they're a bit slower, and the guys coming through from the back creates a collision. So by having a rolling start, it hopefully eliminates some of that, and it'll be cleaner for the majority of the drivers.
And the software allows you to do that.
Yes, we can do rolling starts, we can do standing starts, we can do all kinds of different starts. Like we have a formation lap at the moment, you can start without a formation lap, but with the rolling start, they will start on the grid, and then they will follow the safety car around, and when the safety car peels in, you get a green flag and away you go.
Okay, great stuff. No, I look forward to it. I'll be available. If not, I will let you know. But certainly it's going to be an interesting format.
All right, then let's wrap it up. And thank you very much for your contribution tonight. This has been my favorite round so far. Certainly with your knowledge on the track, it's been amazing.
It's just we were both caught off guard when the race was over. We were having so much fun
Yes.
with the race at hand that we actually missed the finish.
Yes.
So,
it's good if that happens. I guess it means it wasn't a boring race.
yeah, it was. And not only for the lead, even further back, there were fights happening all over, even if it was in second to last and last. I think they were at each other's throats. Well, of the cars that were still on the same lap, at least. So it was an interesting race, to say the least, here, as we scan through what I call toilet corner, but don't let anybody else hear that.
All right, so then let's say our final thanks and say our goodbyes for the evening. So thank you once again to Alwin Automotive Glass for sponsoring the championship and making everything happen. And of course to yourself, Sean, for making the commentary as exciting as it is now. So thank you for all your knowledge and your expertise. And of
You're
course,
more than welcome. It's been a great experience. Thanks, Dennis.
and thanks to all our drivers and everyone who takes part in the YouTube channel. Without everyone that takes part in this, whether it's drivers or spectators, this wouldn't be possible. So thank you to everyone else that has been a part of this.
Is our Alwin going to be involved in the BTC Championship as well?
Yes, they will be.
Great stuff. Nice having them on board.
So that will be it for tonight. So thank you, everyone. And we will catch you for the official first round of the British Touring Cars in 2 weeks' time. We will have a 1 week break. We will have a fun race next Sunday. We might possibly stream that, but it might be a warm-up race to the British Touring Cars. So I'm not too sure what we're doing yet, but that might be streamed. So look out for that. But we will also have our MX-5 Cup race on Wednesday night. So that'll be coming to you from Okayama in Japan. So that should be quite exciting for the drivers that are more Assetto Corsa bound. That should be a pretty close race as well. And then we will catch you all next time. So enjoy your weekend, what's left of it, and have a good week.
Thanks, Dennis. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers. Bye.